Hello my dear YouTuber friends, and welcome to this new video, which is a 2-week later review of the Velocity 1 flight yacht system. The good, the bad, I can't say ugly, the beautiful, because it looks absolutely fantastic still. I've released other videos, first impressions, setting up buttons on the Xbox and first impressions on the PC. I've not done a review. I purposely waited until I got to know the Yoke system a little bit better. So that's why I'm releasing my review now. I'm also going to be talking about whether I would recommend it if you have an Xbox console, whether I would recommend it and my recommendations, or if you're a PC owner, would I recommend it? I'll be talking about that later in the video. So let's not hesitate. Let's get on with the video. Okay, so let's concentrate first on the things I love about it, the pros, and I'll talk about the cons, the things I don't like about it later. When I first saw promotional videos of these push-pull GA handles, I was pretty much sold on it from the start. Really liked the idea of them, I had high hope, and on my unit, opinions differ on this, on my unit at least, the tension and resistance of them feel spot on. They feel like you're using the real thing, the real handles, in something like a Cessna aircraft. The range and smoothness of them, especially on this throttle, which I'm using a lot, it's just beautiful and immersive to use. Apologies for the shaky cam, there's no stabilizer on this camera. I am doing my best, every movement is picked up, I'm afraid. Another thing, lots of people have mentioned this, but the pitch trim wheel. Beyond perfection, resistance, tension on it feels just right, and it's beautiful. You can't fully appreciate how that feels to use when you're in an aircraft and trimming out. Just feels fantastic, and again, just like the real thing. Pilots are saying that's exactly like what you would find on something like a GA aircraft, like a Cessna or something. Absolutely beautiful, one of the biggest selling points of the entire system, no doubt. Another thing, there's pros and cons with these throttle levers. I'll come to the cons later. Good thing is that you have 4 levers. If you're flying 4-engine aircraft, you've got 4 engines you can use there, which is nice. Now, like I said, I'll come back to these later, but it's nice you got 4 different levers, 4 different engines for your use. Another advantage and things I like about this system is this front panel. Now, I'll link my features of the Velocity 1 video in the top right for you. I go more in depth of what you can do with this in that. You can change things like settings, update firmware. One of the things I love is that on the fly you can just change your colour. The ability to have different colour options is absolutely brilliant. Let's take it back to the one I like, and you've got other options in there too. Let's get it back to the main screen. Buttons, 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 hat switches everywhere. 2 PLV switches that you can set up and use how you like. 2 more sorts of hat switch, 4 directional hat switches down here, buttons here, bumper buttons on the front and trigger buttons on the front. Buttons down the side here. Oh, it's raining hard outside, do forgive the noise. A bank of buttons that you can set up and use here. Absolutely spoiled for choice when it comes for buttons. Backlighting, it's nice to have that, and the warning lights. There is a bit of a caveat to that, which I'll mention later in the video. And the other big thing, big selling points of the system is the clamping system. You can't see it, can you? There'll be no clamp here, no clamp sticking out underneath the table. Lovely clamping system, 2 sort of little legs that clamp onto your desk, and they're hidden from view with that big Allen key and these sort of clamping nuts there. Absolutely ingenious clamping system, the best on the market, arguably one of the very best on the market. So absolutely loving all those features combined together, the choice and range of buttons, the different color schemes and possibility. I'm not going to mention any disadvantage of this front display unit, because many Yokes, I don't know if any of them apart from this have anything like this. And the possibilities of this in the future with future firmware is very exciting indeed. The GA levers, can't express how much I love using them and how immersive in flight they are to use. And the way they feel is just fantastic. The trim wheel, what else can I say about that trim wheel? Perfection personified with that. Absolutely beautiful. Well look, those are the things I like, those are the pros. Let's now go to the cons, the things I don't quite like about this. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that I don't like, some of the cons with the systems, and one thing in particular has been a bit of a letdown so far. Apologies for the lighting, now it's sunny, it was raining before. What can you do about Mother Nature, hey? Let's talk about these throttle levers. Everybody's pretty much in agreement with them. The tension on them is not good enough. I find them quite loose as well. Like with my Logitech Flight Yoke system and throttle quadrant, I didn't like the look of these. These look okay, but they still look a bit toyish to me. I always look to replace them. Let me show you on screen what I did with my Logitech Flight Yoke system. And I'll link the video on the top right about the 737 handles. If I'm going to use these, and I've hardly used these out of 20-30 times I've been using this or more over the past couple of weeks, I've always been using these predominantly. I've used these a couple of times. They do work, they work fine and stay in place. They're just a bit loose. Over time, they may become looser. I'm going to link a video, I think his name is Chunzi, in the top right there. He's come up with an option of actually putting kind of like rubber placeholders down the side of these to make them firmer, rubber strips rather. Go and check out his video if this is a concern. It's not a concern for me, especially as I'm so in love with these levers. If I need to do something about these and I want to be using them, they're workable now. In the future, if I want to replace them with replica handles, or perhaps put some kind of rubber to make the tension and resistance a bit stronger, I'll do that. But it's one of the disadvantages or cons with the system generally. Like I said, you probably like me, going to be using these, especially if you like GA aircraft. Another con is that a disadvantage thing I don't like, not particularly don't like, but a thing that's you have to take in consideration. These backlight warning lights in the current firmware, which you update via this and software on your PC or Xbox, with the current firmware, these warning lights stay on, they don't go off. Hopefully that will be updated in the future. And it's a feature that most other Yokes, if any other, I've not seen it on any other Yoke, they don't have this feature at all. So can you actually class that as a con or disadvantage? For me it's a win-win because they're there in the first place. If it's updated in the future and the lights come on and off, brilliant. So I'm going to look forward to that. Now possibly the biggest letdown of all, the Yoke system, left and right banking, perfect, highly responsive, the most responsive I've seen of any controller yet. So when you bank in left or right, in my experience at least, it's the pitch axis. See, I don't know if you can see that, but it kind of, yeah, you can see that it's juddery and sticky. Now pushing in's not too bad, but when you're pulling back, especially when you're flaring, or when after the first couple of days, first couple of uses, I noticed that. And it was a major letdown compared to my Logitech Flight Yoke system. Let me show you that on screen, some kind of video footage. That's been smooth from day one. That's a cheap Yoke system, a third of the price. And it's been brilliant since day one, brilliant to this day. let's take that off screen now. And this, I couldn't get past that. I was even thinking, do I return the whole unit? Because I wasn't happy with that. So I thought first I would email Turtle Beach, and I know other people have as well and got the same response. I'll show you the email on screen, their response. So they're essentially saying that it's a known issue. There's a lot of discussion about it on their Discord, which they're heavily promoting, by the way. And that after a couple of weeks of use, this should subside. And in fact, after a couple of weeks of use, it has subsided slightly. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go full screen and give you actually a physical demonstration of that pitch axis. Okay, so to hopefully demonstrate the stickiness of the pitch axis on the Yoke, I'm just going to take off from my usual location at London City. Nothing spectacular, we'll just get up to speed and I'll just try and behave naturally as I would when I'm going for a flight, so I'm not going to overemphasize anything. I'll pull up on my Yoke, I'll pull back on my Yoke, and there's a little bit of stickiness there, so when I'm trying to better trim up. When I'm trying to make sure that the Yoke's neutral, it's a little bit sticky in the takeoff. Not too bad there, it has loosened over the past couple of weeks I've been using it, so what Turtle Beach was saying seems to be accurate. What I'll do, I'll fly around and then come back on an approach, and I'll come in for a landing and flare for landing, and I'll show you what that's like currently. Okay, so I've come back now while I'm doing a sort of 180 turn, just to show you one or two other issues. When I'm trying to, let's not over trim that. When I'm trying to pull back in the Yoke when I'm turning just to keep altitude, it can be a little bit sticky and jerky there. Like I said, it's improving, or it's improved from what it used to be when I first started using the Velocity 1. You can see London City Airport ahead of us, so I'll start throttling back and trimming up just to get to flaps 1. See, my Yoke wasn't quite centered there. It was a little bit notch. I had it pulled back a notch and I didn't realize it just righted itself. So it can still misbehave a little bit. Once again, from what it used to be, it's a lot better. So I'm just trimming and throttling back for flaps 1. Come back on a little bit more throttle. The throttle push-pull levers there are just fantastic. I'm using them and they just work really well. Let's just go to flaps 1 there. Yep, it's first stage of flaps. I keep calling it flaps 1. Okay, doesn't matter for this specific video. A little bit low there, so I'm just... I think my speed's okay, just about. And I might as well just go to flaps 2 there, just trim to compensate with the trim wheel. All that works wonderfully. Don't know what the jerkiness is about there. Maybe it's having trouble loading in some scenery. There you go, it's smoothed out now. So what I'll do now, I'll just approach the runway and start flaring, obviously, once I'm over the runway. A little bit more throttle there. Like I say, those GA levers, the throttle push-pull levers, especially on an approach here, are just fantastic. And it's that kind of immersion that I'm really loving with the Velocity 1. Far more immersive than any other controller I've used when you're using those GA levers. Fantastic. So I'm not going to worry too much about the pappy lights for this video. I'm just going to throttle back a little bit so I start descending again. Adjust that throttle, so I pulled it back a little bit too much there. So push it in a little bit, now pull it back a little bit. That's fine. Yeah, I've made the runway, so I'll know my throttle here. And pull back, as you can see now. Still a little bit jerky, but not too bad. You can pitch quite easily. When I first got the Yoke, could hardly do this at all, but as you can see, I'm pitching fine there. just to come... Did I land? Good grief, I didn't even feel that. So there you go, that's a good demonstration. So there you go. Okay, back to more features of the Velocity 1. So as you can see, like Turtle Beach mentioned in the email, the pitch access does seem to smooth out over time, especially pulling back when coming into land. I'm not having too much difficulty with that. Taking off, sometimes it can stick, and I have to make sure it's fully centered before I start trimming. But it is smoothing over time. If it's a concern of yours, which it should be, all I can give is my experience and say, even after a couple of weeks, it is smoothing out already. And it's not too much of an inconvenience now, thankfully, because I love the rest of the Yoke system, of the Flight Yoke system. Okay, let me take you to the part of the video whether I would recommend buying this if you have an Xbox or if you have PC. So let's go to that now. Okay, so let's talk about whether I recommend this if you own an Xbox console. Went a bit darker outside, so I've turned the light on, so lighting's changed again. Apologies for that. Like I said, what can you do about Mother Nature? If you own a Series S or X, would I recommend this? No brainer. If you want a Flight Yoke system on the Series S or X, this is currently your only choice. But look at the value. I mean, that Series S cost me £250. The Yoke system, £350. For £600, stick a mouse into your Series S, which I have there just for effect, just to show you. Clamp your Yoke to a desk in your office, your bedroom, a corner of the room somewhere. You've got a system that a lot of PC users, flight sim users, would give their right arm for. Series S is already outstanding value to play Flight Simulator. 1080p, yes, but if you play it on a large screen, not a bit bigger than mine, you can get an excellent experience. Couple it with this Yoke system. My goodness, £600. If you were to buy an entry-level PC that's future-proofed a little bit for Flight Simulator, you're going to possibly be doubling that price just for the PC itself. I'll repeat that, £600 for that setup. Outstanding value. Jump to the Series X, which I don't own, but if you had a Series X, 4K high quality or very high level of details. What would a PC system cost? About £2,000 if you can get hold of one at the moment. Just for the PC system, then you would have to buy this. Series X and this together, £800. Incredible value. And what a transformation, I can tell you, because I've played a Flight Simulator on my Series X with the Velocity 1. What a transformation. It's as good as playing it on PC. There's a couple more advantages with playing Flight Simulator on PC, of course. But it's up to spec with playing it on PC, and the immersion you get from this, absolutely 100% if you have a Series X or S. This is a must-buy. There's other Flight Yokes coming up. The Honeycomb are looking to release their range. No ETA on that yet. Probably within the next few months, 4 months or so. Price range going to be a little bit more expensive if the PC variant of the Honeycomb is any indication. Probably more towards £500. Take it into consideration. You're not going to have these GA handles. The GA handles, push-pull handles. You're not going to have that incredible pitch trim wheel there either. You're not going to have all these features of the front panel and the lighting. If you like the look of it, I can't see why anybody wouldn't. 100%. Yeah, it's a must-have if you have a Series X and X or S rather, and you're looking for the most immersion playing Flight Simulator. PC, a little bit different. You've got the entry-level Yoke CH Yoke system, Logitech Flight Yoke system, which I still recommend. If you're not sure, you don't want to spend a lot of money on the Yoke, Logitech Flight Yoke system is the way I would go. If you're sure you want a good yoke with lots of features, within this price range, this is the only one available within that price range. Honeycomb, you're looking at over £500, so you've got to take that into consideration. You might be thinking to yourself, which I was as well, I want a better yoke system. I'm not keen on paying over £500 for it. This is a sweet spot for me, £350, and it works wonderfully. I've been playing it a heck of a lot on the PC as well. Works wonderfully on the PC. I'll link my video that I did of PC first impressions. It's even got the sensitivity saving and goodness knows what, a nice sensitivity setup, which you can tweak a bit, a nice setup generally. Within that price, I would recommend it if you have Flight Simulator on PC. That's the way you play it. You don't have a Flight Yoke system at the moment, or you have a very cheap one, you're looking to upgrade, but you don't want to spend a lot of money. This is the sweet spot for me, £350. If you own already a Honeycomb, then I wouldn't recommend buying this on top of it. Even if you do like the look of the GA levers, push-pull levers, and the trim wheel. It's up to you, of course, but for those who don't have a yoke system already, this is also ideal if you have a PC. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and that's my 2-week review. I'm thankful the pitch axis is now easing and getting better. Absolutely love it. It's always enjoyable for me to play and use this Flight Yoke system. Couldn't envision myself getting rid of it now. I absolutely love it. Do let me know your thoughts below. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. Many more Flight Simulator videos on the way, and I'll probably do over the next few weeks a live stream, a sort of ad hoc live stream, flying around somewhere where it'll just be me and YouTube viewers. So I won't do a sort of multiplayer live stream, just a solo flight live stream using the Velocity one and maybe talking more about it in that video, so watch out for that. Okay, I'll see you soon.